What is up, guys? Randomodium here with your patch 6.14 analysis and breakdown. In this video, I'm going to go over everything that's going to be changing in patch 6.14. And I just wanted to let you guys know that I don't make these videos in a vacuum. I watch a lot of, very high-level players, pros and coaches and things like that. I see what they say as far as these patch notes are concerned. I definitely look at some of the posts that are made about the patch notes and what comments people are making on those, and I try and draw my own conclusions, and I try to bring up stuff that other people aren't bringing up that I think is important to give you guys a little something that you're not going to find anywhere else. So hopefully you guys learned something new from this video, and yeah, definitely let me know if you have any questions or if you agree or disagree with anything I have to say in this video. So first up, the Rise update. If you haven't seen the Champion Spotlight, I definitely recommend checking that out. He seems like he's going to be much healthier, but I haven't had a chance to play him, so I really don't know how it's going to really affect him. So I kind of want to reserve judgment on that until I play him. So Leona kind of got like a mini rework where the damage on her passive, her Q, her W, and her R all got reduced. So nerfs to damage for Leona. However, her cooldown on her Q, which is her stun, has been dropped by 2 seconds at every single rank. The range has been increased. The bonus range she gets has been increased to 50. They did fix a bug fix where the stun was lasting 1.25 seconds, so now it's actually lasting 1 second like it should. And then on top of that, they also increased the root duration of her Zenith Blade. But the biggest change is that they added something to Leona's ultimate called Incandescence, where the next 3, 4, or 5, based on the rank, basic attacks that she makes have increased range and deal increased damage, and also apply sunlight, which is her passive. So what they're doing is they're removing some of the damage that Leona has from her kit, and they're adding additional damage to her ultimate, as far in the form of her basic auto attacks, and they're also increasing her utility by increasing the root duration, increasing the range on her Q, and decreasing the cooldown on her Q. So they're trying to make Leona more impactful in the mid and late game when she can sometimes struggle to have as much impact as another like tanky CC person like an Alistar. But they're reducing her power in the early game. So Leona's level 2 all-in and her level 3 all-in will not be as powerful, but she'll be more impactful later in the game. So I think these are very healthy changes for her to help balance out her power curve a little bit more. So I'm definitely interested to play Leona in this patch. Sona also got a minor rework this patch. So her R radius has been increased, and then they completely changed the passive portion of her crescendo. So it used to be that her crescendo caused like a buff to all of her other abilities, her Q, W, and E. Now what it does is it reduces cooldowns on her other abilities by 20, 30, 40%. However, this cooldown reduction is not additive with cooldown reduction from items or masteries, it's multiplicative. So, for example, if you have 40% cooldown reduction from Crescendo and 40% cooldown reduction from items, it's not going to be 80% cooldown reduction. It comes out to like 64%. I think you can max out around 67% if you've got that the mastery, which allows you to increase your cooldown reduction to 45%. But you're not going to get higher than like 67% cooldown reduction on Sona. They also did some pretty significant changes to her other abilities. So they're reducing the damage on her Q, but they're increasing the heal and the shield on her W, as well as the scaling. So both the base value and the scaling have gone up. But her W no longer is increased by how much missing health her target has. They also made it so that her Song of Celerity, her E, the movement speed is non-decaying, and then also the movement speed ratio, the scaling ratio has been increased, and the duration is increased. So what they're doing is they're removing power from her Q, they're adding power to her W and to her E. On top of this, her power chord, her passive, the damage has also been increased, and then they've also buffed the power chord portion of her W, which is her healing, so that if you use power chord with W, the damage reduction of the target is much higher. It's now 25%, and the scaling is a lot better. So basically, when you use power chord with her W, it's kind of like a mini exhaust. So you can see that there's this common theme of they're reducing the impact of her Q, they're trying to amplify the effects of her W and her E. And this is designed to make it more of a very selective choice on what ability you use with power chord. So this is really going to separate the good Sona players from the great Sona players, is that you use the right power chord at the right time, you use the right abilities at the right time, that you manage your mana properly, because with her spells being so spammable with cooldown reduction, you're going to be able to run out of mana much easier with Sona. So I think these are all really good changes. I think that she is going to be really powerful. She might even be overpowered this patch. But I think that she'll be in a much healthier state than she was, because she was definitely hurting a little bit earlier. So Annie got some bug fixes. Basically, they're just improving the AI on Tibbers. Nothing really major. So it won't really affect people who are Annie mains, but it'll affect people who are kind of more casual Annie players. So just the AI on Tibbers is better. So Azir got some nerfs. So Azir at level 18 is still just as powerful as he was the previous patch. At level 1, he's also still just as powerful. So his level 1 and his level 18 power is the same. The soldier damage is the same. However, how it scales from between level 1 and level 18 has been changed. So he scales less at early levels. It only goes up by 2 damage per level. But then later on, it goes up by as much as 10 per level. Actually, it goes up even higher. It goes up to 15 per level once you get up to around like level 14. So they still want him to be a late game monster, but they're trying to decrease the potency of his laning phase, where he can just bully people with his soldiers and his incredible range, and then also his safety with his E. And then on top of that, they're also reducing his soldiers' vision range to match their attack range. So I think these are good changes to Azir. I like it that they're not trying to nerf his late game, because that's really where Azir is strong, is that late game team fighting mid laner. But I can understand that some people feel that his early game is kind of oppressive and he feels too safe. Alright, Fiora is getting slight buffs, so her healing on Vital Hit is up ever so slightly. It looks like 5 at every single level. But the bigger thing is that her ratio on her Q, her lunge, has been increased significantly at rank 1. So it's gone from 0.55 bonus attack damage to 0.95 bonus attack damage. However, at rank 5, it's still the same. It's still 1.15 bonus attack damage. So what these changes are designed to do is they're going to increase Fiora's potency in her laning phase, making her have easier lane matchups, because her passive is most useful when she's kind of trading with her lane opponent. It's not as useful in team fights. And then also her Q at lower ranks is going to do more damage, which is going to allow her to trade more effectively. But they're not really changing her late game power. So it's going to give Fiora a more forgiving early game, but she's still going to have the same power late game. So I think that it'll make Fiora more competitive. I don't know if it's going to bring her back into the LCS more than just like a pocket pick, but I think it will help her in solo queue quite a bit. Alawi got a slight change so that her tentacle indicator is more accurate. That'll help people to kind of dodge easier. Lee Sin got a buff to the shielding amount on his W, his safeguard. I don't think this is going to really affect Lee Sin that much, but I guess it kind of makes you feel better when you try to use your safeguard to help an ally, and you can actually save them rather than the shield doing nothing and them dying anyway. So okay, that's interesting. I don't think it's really going to affect Lee Sin that much. Lux, her damage on her Q went down at by 10 at every single rank. However, her passive damage went up considerably. It goes up almost, it looks like it's 36 at level 18. So this is going to encourage people to not just do that her wombo combo where she, QER and deletes you off the map. It's going to encourage people to do more spell weaving and use Lux's passive. So it's making Lux's passive more impactful, which is good. I think it's going to reward people who kind of weave in auto attacks between spells more. Malzahar got some pretty significant nerfs, so his movement speed got dropped by 5, which, I mean, it's not a huge change, but it definitely is going to make his roams a little bit less impactful. But the big one here is they reduced his attack range by 50, so now his attack range is 500. I know a lot of people are saying this is not a huge change because it's Malzahar, he doesn't auto attack that often, but think about it. Like, anytime you go to CS, when you don't use your abilities, when you're just trying to, last hit with your auto attack, you now have to be 50 units closer to that minion for that auto attack. So that's going to make ganking him easier. That's going to make trading with him easier. That's going to make popping his passive a lot easier because he's going to have to get closer to his opponents in order to last hit effectively. So this is actually a huge change to Malzahar. It's really going to affect his laning phase. It's not going to touch him in the jungle, so he's still going to be really strong in the jungle, but it's definitely going to hurt him in mid lane and make his laning phase much weaker. Poppy, her cooldown on her passive and the shielding amount on her passive have gone up. It looks like the damage is actually slightly lower. I think that it's good that her passive cooldown is lower. I would have preferred to have seen something where, like, if she uses it to kill a minion, the cooldown is reduced or something like that, so it can help her, last hit a lot easier, because I feel like Poppy's getting bullied a lot of times. But yeah, I'll see how that works. I definitely like the fact that her shielding amount has been increased based off of level. That's going to make her even stronger in the late game. And then it looks like the bonus movement speed on her W has been increased as well to give her probably an easier time to set those wall stuns and chase opponents. I don't know if this is going to be enough to bring Poppy back into the meta, but I think it's a step in the right direction. Alright, Rek'Sai. So this change, a lot of people may not understand it. So when you're using your Tremor Sense as Rek'Sai, you'll get those little tremors where you can see where somebody's moving, and it used to be that those happen once every 0.75 seconds. So you kind of could see kind of a path of where the person was going. Now they've increased that to 1.5 seconds, so you're only going to get a tremor once every 1.5 seconds. It's going to make it harder for people to track people as they're moving, and it's also going to make it easier for you to fool his Tremor Sense when you kind of stand still. So this is going to make Rek'Sai more challenging to play. I think it's going to hurt lower ELOs much more than it's going to hurt higher ELOs. I think higher ELO players are going to be able to adapt to this much easier. So I'm not sure if this is the right change for him, because Rek'Sai isn't that amazing at low ELO, but he's very strong at high ELO and LCS. It does give a little bit more of an ability to kind of outplay the Rek'Sai and, kind of pull some cheeky, stop moving, hide in a bush kind of thing. So I'm curious to see how this is going to change things in the LCS, but I don't know if I really like this change to Rek'Sai. So Talia got some interesting changes. So they changed the way her W is cast. It's now a vector cast, similar to Victor's E or Rumble's R. And they also increased the cooldown. So at rank 5, it looks like the cooldown is 4 seconds higher. However, they also removed the lockout. So it used to be that when you were using her W, she had a 0.55 second lockout where she couldn't cast any other spells. They removed that. So this is going to make Talia much more fluid, so that instead of having to use your E and then W, you can actually use your W and then E and still, get the effect. So it would make her more fluid. However, I have heard that some people don't like how it's a vector cast now. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, so I'm not exactly sure. And then to compensate for this, to make because her landing her WE combo is a lot easier, they reduce the damage on her E if you get hit by multiple mines. So if you go through like 3 or 4 mines, you're not going to get completely destroyed as much as you used to. So I think that's good. Um, Talia is really powerful though. Like she can clear waves super easy, and then she can roam really easily as well. She kind of fulfills kind of that same role as like a Twisted Fate, where she can just like clear the wave really fast and then just disappear into the fog of war, and then your side lanes have to play super conservative because she can ult in really fast, and she has a lot of CC that makes her ganks very, very potent. I don't think this is the right way to change her. I would have preferred to see them make her wave clear less potent, or make it so that you can punish her wave clear a little bit more, like make her mana cost higher or something. So I think that she's going to be still very strong, and I think you're going to actually see her a lot in the LCS. All right, Victor. So the big thing they changed with Victor is to get his first upgrade on his hex core. It's now, instead of 1,000 gold, it's 1,250. But they reduced the cost for his perfect hex core by the same amount. So the total cost of the hex core is unchanged. But this is really going to mess up Victor's back timings, because you used to only want to back once you had 1,000 gold minimum. Usually you want to have even more. You want to have like 1,350, so you could get, your upgraded hex core and boots and a health pot or something like that. Now it's 1,250. That's a needlessly large rod worth of gold. So that's a lot of extra gold. That means he has to stay in lane longer before he can back, and that makes it much easier to punish him in his early game. If you're able to force him out of lane and force him to back before he reaches that 1,250, it's going to make him much harder for him to get that first upgrade that he needs for his wave clear. So yeah, this is really going to hurt Victor's laning phase, but it's not going to really affect him late game. Yeah, so they fix a bunch of bug fixes. That's great. Cloud Drake, they increased the movement speed considerably. It's now 25, 50, 75. So for reference, that's a lot of movement speed. That's really a ton of movement speed. Yeah, it's like having boots as opposed to not having boots. So this is going to be huge. It's really going to, especially, I think it's going to be really huge in LCS, because you're seeing a lot of these comps being run that have Sivir, Zillion, Karma, all these comps that allow you to fast engage on somebody. And you see a lot of these champs like Olaf, Hecarim, Maokai, Rengar, that you just speed boost the person and then you just full on engage into them. So I think that you're going to see Cloud Drake much more contested. I don't know if people are going to contest it as much in solo queue, because people still really underappreciate the value of movement speed, I feel like, in solo queue. However, it's going to make, if you're really intelligent about it, it's going to make rotations easier. It's going to make certain comps much more powerful. So I think it's a step in the right direction. However, if they buff this that much more, it could actually be bad, because if you get to a certain point where you have such a large movement speed bonus over your allies, then they can never run away. They can never match you in the rotations, and it just becomes really oppressive. So I'm glad that they're only doing a small buff to this. So these are all Twisted Tree Line changes that I don't really care about. Cooldown pings. This is fantastic. They're adding cooldown pings, so I can now, instead of having to say, I have my ultimate in 5 seconds, I can just click on my ultimate and it will let my allies know that it's 5 seconds till my ultimate's up. It also lets you know how long you have for summoner spells. It lets you know how long you have for major items, vision items, or Blade of the Ruined King, or something like that. It can also let you know. You can also use pings for your health or for your mana. So if you're out of mana and your team doesn't realize it, you can ping them saying, "I'm out of mana," which is so useful. Or if you're like super low health and you want them to back off, you can ping that you're low health. Um, so yeah, these are phenomenal. They also added it for jungle timers, so you can like ping and say, "Hey, mid laner, blue buff, 10 seconds." Make sure you're there. So yeah, I love this. This is a great change. I only wish that they would add things like a ping to say like, "Hey, the enemy just warded here." But yeah, I'm happy with this change a lot. I can't wait to use this. So for champion mastery, they adjusted the calculations for support, so it's easier to get S's with supports. So it says support grades now weight assists equal to kills. So as a support, you no longer have to be, kill hungry to get that S score. You can get an S just with assists. So that's great. I know it's been really difficult to get S's with supports. So I'm happy to see that change. And then it looks like Nexus Siege might be coming to the rotating game mode, and it looks like they fixed a bunch of bug fixes. The biggest ones I saw in there was Zyra's passive no longer activates when Zyra's recalling in a bush, giving away her location. So like if you're like in a bush recalling, like her seed will sprout up. It no longer does that. Um, and then there's a bunch of other kind of interesting bug fixes. The one that was probably the most humorous was that there was a bug where if Braum used his Unbreakable when you're at Nashor at just the right time, it would actually insta-kill Braum. So they fixed that. And yeah, and there was a couple other ones that they fixed that they're definitely good. All good bug changes. So you can read all those on your own time. And then the new skins they're coming out with are all the pool party skins, Fiora, Misfortune, and Taric. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope I gave you some insights that you didn't get at, reading the patch notes or watching any other videos. If you have any questions or comments, definitely, let me know. I'm happy to respond to them, and I love reading your guys' comments. If you like the content on the channel, please subscribe. I hope you all have a great day. This is Randomonium signing off.